What is the urinary system of the body? So, the waste products which accumulate in the blood are toxic to the body. They must be removed to maintain hemostasis. This work is done by the urinary system. It removes the waste products from the body and helps in hemostasis, which is the balance of the body. The organs which are included in the urinary system are kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. The primary organs are the kidneys, where the filtration of the waste products from the bloodstream occurs, and this filtrate is converted into urine. Then it goes into the next step of excretion, which includes ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. These three are combinedly known as the urinary tract because they transport the urine from the kidneys and excrete it out of the body. So, what are the functions of the urinary system? The first and foremost is the removing of the waste products from the bloodstream, then storage of urine, excretion of urine, blood volume regulation, and regulation of erythrocyte production. The kidneys control the volume of interstitial fluid and blood under the direction of certain hormones. So, it plays a vital role in the blood volume regulation. The other foremost important function of the kidney is regulation of erythrocyte production. So, as the kidneys filter the blood, they are also indirectly measuring the oxygen level in the blood. The erythropoietin hormone will be produced by the kidney if blood oxygen level falls and stimulates the production of RBC in the red bone marrow. So, where exactly the kidneys are located? They are located in the retroperitoneal compartment of the body. The superior pole of the kidney is about at the level of D12 vertebra, and the inferior pole is at the level of L3, that is the third lumbar vertebra. Right kidney is usually 2 centimeters lower than the left kidney. From where does the kidney get its blood supply? It gets its blood supply from the renal arteries, which is a direct branch from the aorta. About 20 to 25% of the cardiac output which comes from the heart is taken up by the kidneys. From this we can understand how rigorously the kidneys work for maintenance of the hemostasis and for the excretion of the waste products. So, in the kidneys, where exactly the filtration occurs? The basic functional filtration unit in the kidney is called nephrons. So, microscopically, it measures about 5 centimeters in length. In both the kidneys, approximately 2.5 million nephrons are present. So, what are the parts of a nephron? It consists of a glomerular capsule, which will lead into proximal convoluted tubule and loop of Henle, then distal convoluted tubule. The process of urine formation includes 3 steps. It is the filtration, the reabsorption, and the secretion. The filtration occurs in the renal corpuscle, that is the glomerular capsule. It forms the filtration, which means from the blood into the tubule. The next step is reabsorption. It occurs mostly at the proximal. Reabsorption means from the tubule, means the particles in the tubule, they get absorbed into the blood. And then the final step is secretion. It is again from the blood into the tubule. It means whatever the components which are present in the blood which have to be released out will come here in the form of secretion. So initially the process starts at the glomerular capsule. Here the materials from the blood, they get filtered into the glomerular capsule, and this is known as the filtrate. Now this filtrate, which consists of many components, they come into the proximal convoluted tubule. Here the process of reabsorption begins, which means almost all the nutrients, which include glucose, amino acids, electrolytes, plasma proteins, they get actively reabsorbed into the blood from the filtrate. So the process of reabsorption is osmosis, which will include 60 to 65%. Here the 60 to 65% of water will be reabsorbed from the filtrate into the blood. So the other solutes which are present in the filtrate, which are useful to the body, will also be taken back into the blood plasma at this position of the nephron. After this, from the proximal convoluted tubule, the filtrate will pass into the loop of Henle. It has an descending limb and an ascending limb. After passing through the loop of Henle, finally the filtrate will enter into the distal convoluted tubule. Here the primary function is secretion, which means some components in the blood which are not needed in the body at that higher level will be excreted here into the filtrate. They are certain components like potassium, acids, which are released into the filtrate. Here in the distal convoluted tubule, along with the secretion, some amount of reabsorption of water also occurs back into the blood. This reabsorption of water in the distal convoluted tubule is influenced by two major hormones. It is aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone. So after proper absorption of the needed water, the needed components from the blood, the rest of the matter, which is known as the filtrate, it will be further released through the distal convoluted tubule into the urinary tracts, which are ureters. These are the long fibromuscular tubes which conduit the urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder. They are about 25 centimeters in length, originate at the renal pelvis and extend inferiorly to enter the posterolateral wall of the urinary bladder. So once the urine has passed through these ureters, it will finally get stored in the urinary bladder. It is an expandable muscular container which serves as a reservoir for urine until it is excreted. So after the urinary bladder has the sensation of full bladder, it starts expulsion of urine. The initiation is by means of complex sequence of events called the Mixturation Reflex. The bladder is supplied by both parasympathetic and sympathetic nerve fibers of the autonomic nervous system. So once the urinary bladder starts ejecting this urine, it further goes into a small muscular tube known as urethra. So it is present at the exit of the urinary bladder, which conducts the urine to the exterior of the body. So the micturition is controlled at the urethra by means of two sphincters. It has an internal urethral sphincter and an external urethral sphincter. The functioning of the internal sphincter is it restricts the release of urine until the pressure within the urinary bladder is high enough. And the function of external sphincter is a voluntary action which is needed to release the urine. The female urethra has only one function, that is to transport the urine from the urinary bladder to the outside of the body. Whereas the male urethra has two functions, that is the urinary and the reproductive functions. The male urethra is the passageway for both urine and semen. It is about 18 to 20 centimeters long and it has various segments in it which will help in the passage of the semen and urine through the male urethra. So with aging, what happens to the urinary system? There are changes in the size and functioning of the kidneys which will begin usually at the age of 30 years. There will be a gradual reduction in the kidney size. There will be decreased blood flow to the kidneys. Decrease in the number of functional nephrons. The reabsorption and secretion are reduced. Then the diminished ability to filter and clean the blood. Less amount of aldosterone or antidiuretic hormone. Decreased ability to control the blood volume and blood pressure. The volume of the bladder also decreases. There will be more frequent urination with aging, and the control of the urethral sphincters and the control of mixturation may be lost because of the aging. So this is in brief the physiology of the urinary system, how hard the body functions to excrete the waste material from the body and maintain the blood volume and hemostasis.